Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm adding one pawn to the board each game until I beat the Martin bot. The last time I did this challenge I skipped from 1 pawn to 9 pawns because I underestimated Martin's blundering capabilities. And I'll admit, he's talented. So today I'm adding 1 pawn each game until I beat Martin. Let's begin. Since this is mostly RNG anyways, I'm just going to launch the pawn and I was going to say hope it doesn't get stopped and maybe luckily captures its way to the other side, but here we go. On move 1, we're already stopped, so no other choice but to move my king. I'll bring my king forward. It's my most valuable attacking piece, since I don't have any other pieces on the board. Check, we pick up a free pawn, and we lose our other pawn, which means that there's no way we can win this, so we'll go ahead and jump to 2 pawns. All right, we're back with 2 pawns, and this is still basically completely luck, so I'm going to go ahead and launch my pawns forward. Hopefully one of them makes it to the other side. Okay, we're met with e5 again, and I've just realized that Martin probably is programmed to play e4, e5. So when I add that third pawn, I'm definitely not going to play e4 because we're going to be met with e5, and there's no way for me to break past. I'll make the best of it now. I'll play king to e2, bring my king forward. Oh, and I was going to say support the d4 pawn push, but now we have the queen controlling the d4 square. So I'll bring my king up the other way, king to c4. We get checked, we'll drop back. Queen to c6, we have to defend this pawn because we've been forked. There's not a lot of pieces to work with here. d4 has finally been liberated, so I'll move my king to e3. We get checked again. I'll move back to keep defense on the d2 pawn. Queen to h1 hits e4, we'll defend it. We're just running around defending our pawns. d3, add a defender to the e4 pawn, checked. King is getting abused. Knight takes e4, unironically a good sacrifice. I only have 2 pawns anyways. And this pawn is completely stuck. Now we're just kind of waiting to lose it. Check with the queen. No way for me to run over and defend the pawn. So I'll scoot back. And Martin scoots back as well. Okay, I'll come defend my pawn. I'll hang out here for a little bit. All right, and we get checkmated. On to 3 pawns. Okay, we're back with 3 pawns. And having learned from my mistakes, I'm not going to play e4 because then we're just going to be met with e5. And there's no way for me to break through with my pawns without giving one away for free. So instead, I'll play d4. Play d4, maybe I can get my king out through d2. This is the kind of move I like to see. Don't take advantage of the fact that you have 36 points of extra material. Just play h6. It's so funny, he actually starts with a bunch of passed pawns as well. He could just push them. I wouldn't be able to stop all of them. King to d2, and now we'll push e4. Okay, we're met with c5, striking the center. And I could take and hope that he doesn't recapture, but instead I'll push d5. I'd like to get my pawns as deep into the board as possible. Queen to f6 hits f2. That's not very friendly, so I'll defend it with king to e3, the only piece I have to make defending moves. Queen to c3 check. I march forward bravely. You can't stop me. Knight to f6. You think I'm scared? Watch. Okay, we get a knight sacrifice on e4. I guess I'll take back. Queen to d4 check. Hits this pawn, so I'll defend it. He still hasn't recaptured here, but unfortunately, as soon as I take one of these 2 pawns, I'm sure he will. My best bet is probably to take this pawn and hope that he plays king to e7 and I can take. But it's more than likely that he'll just recapture. All right, we get the recapture. We'll move the king over and send the f-pawn into battle. Oh no, but then we lose it. So I will scoot backwards. It's really hard to make progress here in this position. Oh, already got sent back. Yeah, and my king is completely trapped. I have no moves with my king anymore. I have to play f4. Okay, we get the capture. Maybe we can get stalemate. That would be spectacular. But it would also be exceedingly lucky. We get checkmated. We'll move on to 4 pawns. All right, we're back with 4 pawns, and my confidence skyrockets exponentially with every pawn that we add to the board. This time, I'm going to play it a little bit differently. I'm going to push all my pawns kind of together forwards and bring my king nice and close behind. So I'll start with d3. We're met with e5, and I'll bring my king up. Bishop c5 hits the f2 pawn, so we will move it out of the way with f3. Oh, wow. Martin taking advantage of the weak dark squares. One of you guys asked me what I mean when I say weak dark squares, and usually what I mean is that the pawns are on the other colored square. So in this case, I have all light squared pawns, meaning that the dark squares are empty, and unless those squares are filled by usually a bishop, a queen, or another piece that can hold on to those squares are considered weak squares. I can't even defend with e3 because there's no other pawns to support that push. I would just drop the pawn. So instead I'll move my king up to c3. We get h5. I'll move up, sneakily attack the bishop. Nice, which Martin misses. So we take that free bishop, and we get checked. And we're basically walking into checkmate here. King to d5, c6, I guess I can still take. Bishop e6 is checkmate. Martin actually developing his pieces is something that I would never even calculate. So that's incredible. I'm happy for him, but we're going to go ahead and move on to 5 pawns now. All right, we're back with 5 pawns, and I'm unironically feeling pretty good about this. I've gotten into trouble every time he's played e5 because the queen comes out and then just munches up all my pawns. So this time I'll play d4. Yeah, I'll play d4 to control e5 and c5. Okay, we're met with knight to h6. Knight is trying to develop, so I'll play f3 and control that square. d5 controls the center, which I kind of need to take over. But I'll bring my king out first. Nice, undeveloping one of his bazillion pieces, which is always a good sign for me. I'll play c3 to support my center before I break through. Great, because if I had played e4 right away, drops the d4 pawn, but now I'm supported, so I can play e4, strike in the center. Seems half decent. We'll play king to e3. We're met with bishop e6. We'll go ahead and push, hitting the bishop. Yes, we get our first queen sacrifice. The fact that it took us up to 5 pawns to get our first queen sacrifice is actually amazing for Martin. We'll take the queen. We're put in check, and he's threatening to recapture the pawn, but this bishop is also defending the knight. So I'll hit the knight and leave him with the choice of either moving the knight and losing the bishop, or taking the pawn and losing the knight. So he does accept the pawn. We'll take the knight. h6 will get this pawn out of danger. That's a free pawn, and I accept free pawns. And then this is basically complete luck. This pawn is totally stuck here. He doesn't have a glimpse of hope in his future, so we'll push this pawn instead. It gets traded, and this pawn is toast. c4, and it's gone. There's no way we can win with just a king, so we'll go ahead and move on to 6 pawns. All right, we're back with 6 pawns. Let me count. Yes, 6 pawns. I need every pawn I can get. And this time I'm going to play a little more passively. I'm going to let him come to me. And I'm going to try to make a structure here that maybe I can hold out. So I'm going to start with e3. We get d5. I'll bring my king forward to e2. And I'm trying to keep my options open. Oh my goodness. Martin taking advantage of the fact that I didn't control the center. I mean, this is incredibly principled play by Martin. I'll play d3. Bishop g4 check. We'll play f3 to block it. Nice, and we get our first bishop. Go ahead and accept it, even though we drop those 2 pawns on the way. The problem with having so few pawns is even an advantageous trade is not really advantageous when you lose the only pieces that can possibly get you a win. We'll go ahead and play b3. We get checked, which forces a pawn trade. Not if he doesn't take it back, it's not a pawn trade. We'll push d5. He moves his knight to safety to d4, hitting that c2 pawn, which is frankly horrendous for me. I have to play king to c4. Can't play here because the bishop cuts me off. So I guess king c4 takes king b5. No, this would just be mate, actually. Yeah, there's no way for me to stop mate now. We'll play d6 and see if he doesn't notice that it gives me king to b4. Great, we get king to b4, and we're gonna get mated anyways. King to a5 and checkmate. Martin is an animal. Martin is doing tactics. Martin is doing Chesley lessons. Martin is practicing with his coach. Martin is doing something, because the first time I ever played Martin, there's no way he would have found all of these crushing moves. But we'll go ahead and move on to 7 pawns. All right, we're back with 7 pawns, and I've made the decision that Martin doesn't do well under pressure. So I'm going to try to apply as much pressure as possible and actually fight him back. Play d4, trying to strike in the center. We get b5, e4, take over the center. Knight c6, c3, consolidate. All right, and we get g5. My most active piece is my king, so I'll push him forward. Nice, we get our first knight sacrifice. And funny enough, even that isn't enough for me to win. that ratio of one knight for one pawn, if we do that for all the other pieces, including the queen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, leaves me with one pawn versus 8. So even that ratio is pretty bad. What I really need is to get a queen from one of these pawns. That would give me much better chances. Knight to f6 hits the pawn, so we'll defend it, also controlling the g4 square. And then this bishop lines up with my d4 pawn, so I'll defend that as well. There we go. Now we're talking. Free knight completely. Rook to b8. I want to limit his mobility as much as possible, so I'll play b4. We get bishop to f6, and I'll push my king forward. g4. I guess I could take that free pawn. I could also just push f4. Because I don't want to ruin my pawn structure, but at the same time, if I don't take, this pawn gets stuck here anyways. So I might as well accept the gift. Bishop g5 is a perfect example of why I didn't want to double my pawns. Now they're completely stuck. We'll buy a tempo with a3. We're met with rook to h7. I'll actually complicate this for him. I don't think I can. d6, I'm sure he'll just capture it with one of the two pawns. So I'll play king to e5. Okay, we bait a check. We'll move back. f5. Free pawn. All right, now we're kind of talking. I'm still kind of stuck though. Like f6, I'm sure he'd just capture it. a4, just capture. So I'll play g4, consolidate my pawn structure a little bit. We get bishop to c1, great, targeting a backwards pawn that I can't push. So we will hope for the best and push a4, which he captures anyways. Let's see, what can we play with here? There's not really much for me to do. We'll play king back to d3. Oh, that's a free bishop. Okay, he takes on d5, play king to f4. Okay, and I was kind of hoping that I could push g5 and he might not capture because it would be an even trade. We get rook to g7 instead, which is quite annoying, so I'll reroute my king this way. King to h4. We get a rook sacrifice, which is actually disappointing because now he can just take advantage of all the extra material. Again, I need a passed pawn here to win. If I don't get a passed pawn, it's very, very unlikely that I will cause any damage whatsoever to the Martin bot. Right. We're all out of pawns and checkmated. That was 7 pawns. We'll actually get a full set of pawns now. We'll get 8 pawns on this run. All right, this is my last chance to beat the last episode's number of pawns. And I'm not feeling particularly optimistic. It feels like Martin is playing like an animal. And I might actually need more pawns than I needed last time. Also, the way I did it last time, I oriented my 8 pawns on the second rank, or rather, sorry, the third rank, and I had my 9th pawn here, which immediately gave me a really interesting pawn structure that was actually pretty good to work with. For example, after e4, I had like this kind of diamond shape, which my king could work around, but wasn't actually weak. So that was pretty strong. Following in those footsteps, I might do something similar with d4, and then make my own kind of fortress. I was also thinking I probably have better chances on the queen side, since anything with check, for example, if somehow I got this pawn all the way to f7, could accidentally be forcing to recapture, or I feel like he's more likely to recapture when he gets checked, versus a different piece, since it's not forcing, he won't recapture. So I might try to play more on the queen side. I'll play c4. We're met with a6, and I'll play d3. Starting to build up that slightly stronger pawn structure. I'll bring my king up, and I'm not going to move any of these pawns until he forces me to. These will be kind of like my backup. I'll play king to c3. And we get knight to h6, which threatens knight to g4, which is a fork. So I'll play h3 to ward off that idea. We get c6. I'd like to make this b4 pawn push, but in case he does do a bishop crazy sacrifice, I'd love to recapture with my pawn. So I'll play a3 for that recapture. We get rook to a7. See, this is the Martin I'm used to. You know, some Hayward pawn movements, not really developing, even though he's shuffling pieces around. I'll continue with b4. We get c5, which is actually super interesting. Because I could push b5, but after takes, this is super weak. The queen can come to a5, and I'm not doing too hot there. So I might just leave this tension here and buy myself some time. Let's see, what can I play here? I'm going to play g3, just to preemptively stop queen to h4. Play g3. We do get takes, I'll recapture. Queen to e7. Martin knows about batteries? Are you kidding me? All right, Martin apparently knows what batteries are. He's looking for queen takes b4. I have to stop it with c5. Queen is wiggling her way into the position, so I'll stop it again with e3. Oh, yeah. Now we're in business. Queen takes g3. I'll recapture. That's a free queen. d6 puts pressure on this pawn. Push my pawns. I'm less afraid because the queen is off the board. And let's see. How do I actually play for winning chances here, if I even can? I might have to do something slow, like bring my king all the way around. So I'll start that process. Nice. That's pretty good. Oh, that could have been so much better. If this wasn't check, that's it. Unstoppable passed pawn. Is there a way I can make him, like, confuse him somehow? b5, no, it takes with check. No, and it's double check because of the pawn. If only there was a way I could have confused him. I'll play king to a5. And he does move his rook. We were so close. That's really unfortunate. Okay. That's okay. We can still work with this. We just need him to move back, right? Which means we need to buy time. So I'll move. I don't have that many things I can move. I'll move my h-pawn, I guess. Knight to g4. I'll move it again. h6. And he's forcing us to play b5. Takes and checkmate because the bishop covers b4. Wow. That's unfortunate. Yeah, Martin is an animal. I think somebody mentioned that he might be programmed to calculate checkmate in 2, which would actually make a lot of sense. Because in this position, even for a strong player, noticing that this is Zugzwang and that you just have to stop this pawn is kind of an advanced idea for a 250 rated chess bot. So putting me in Zugzwang with h6, forcing b5 and takes, which is technically mate in 2, is a pretty strong idea for a very low rated bot, but it makes sense that he might be programmed to calculate checkmate in 2. We'll go ahead and move on to 9 pawns. All right, we're back with 9 pawns, which is great because now it means we have these really interesting pawn structures. And the first thing I'm going to do is make that little diamond shape, which is super duper strong for me last time. So I'm going to start with e4. Okay, it seems he got confused and didn't realize he could play e5. We'll play f3. And I wanted to leave d4 on the board. I could play d3 here, but then I have unnecessarily weak squares just for fun. So I'll play d4 instead, capturing the center. Bishop b4 check, we block it. Oh, and that is a free bishop, but he would recapture with check and win the pawn. So I can't actually take that bishop. I'll play g3 instead, slowly building up my pawn structure. Still a free bishop, but at the same time, not really. I'll play king to d2. Yes, we are in business. Queen to h4. Free queen. Let's go. Knight not going anywhere in the near future. So now I think I can absolutely take this bishop. a3 moves the pawn out of danger and hits the knight. Okay, I think 9 pawns might just be the magic number. It might just be the magic number. I'll push my king forward. He's done. Take the free knight. Too much central control, maybe. I don't know what happened. He just spazzed out. Maybe he got tired. Tired of being abused on this channel. SMH my head. All right, d5. I want to limit the mobility of his pieces. Let's see. I have to be careful here because there's still a lot of progress that I need to make. I'll play h3, and I'm kind of buying time until he clarifies how I'm going to beat him, basically, for me. I'll play king d3. There we go. We got another sacrifice. Rook to g7. I'll consolidate my center. King c4. I'm so tempted to play b5, but I feel like just takes opens up a file for him. Whoops, not that file. This file. For the rook, it would just open up a file, and that could be devastating. It looks like he's lining up f5. Takes is also pretty uncomfortable. So I might as well send it now with b5. Okay, takes. c6. Takes. Walks into check and I lose the pawn. But I can still win this pawn. So I'll do that. I'll win this pawn. Check. If I take, we still walk into another check. So I could play tricky and hope that he doesn't chase my pawns down. Or I could just be realistic and capture it. Let him check me and then run for the center pawn. I think I'm going to go with that. Oh, he does chase the pawn, but he does it incorrectly. So I'll play b4. b5. Okay, go, little pawn, go. This is your time to shine. Go. All the way. King to a6. Or rather, a7. Okay, he checks me back into place. King to c7. Back into place. Looks like we could get a draw here. And I don't want to draw. Let's play king c6. Okay, he is definitely trying to play for a draw, which anybody in their right mind would probably accept here, because there's 2 extra rooks on the board and not that many capturing opportunities. But I'm not in my right mind, so I'm going to play king to d5 and play for a win here. I'm trying to win in this position, not draw. Draw. What is this? I want draw? No, this is I want checkmate. All right, we'll push h5. I'm sorry, I'm talking into the mic. Sometimes you can hear my plosive. I'm going to move it off center a little bit. There we go. All right, king to c4 walks into this fork. So I'll play king to c5, I guess. All right, we're met with king to c6. Take the pawn. Yes, we are running away. Let's see. I think the best capture is this way. So we'll take this way. King to b4. Here's the thing. If I play king to b5, we walk into rook to b3. King to a4. He might accidentally check me, and then I can take the rook. Or I can play king to b4 and guarantee that this is the only capture he can make. I'm going to risk it. I'm going to play king to b5. We do get check, king to a4. Oh, he lines up. That's right. He can calculate 2-move checkmate. I forgot. That's right. He's cutting me off here. This is forced checkmate. Let's buy ourselves a tempo. That didn't do diddly squat. And we get mated. All right, on to 10 pawns. All right, our luck was pretty good last game, so I'm assuming it's only going up from here. We'll start with d4, seizing the center since that's where I have all the pawns, e4. And like we said, Martin tends to crumble under pressure. So we'll go ahead and keep pushing these center pawns. c5, I'll push d5. Queen to a5, hits a3, so I'll stop it with a3. Takes, even. Yes! Now we're talking. Queen sacrifice, I recapture. I'm celebrating a lot when we only have a queen, but from Martin, that's a pretty good indicator that he's got a lot more where that came from. We'll push c4. g4 is actually kind of annoying because it stops a lot of movement on the king side, so I'll play e4 and bring my king over. Get rid of this pawn. Okay, he puts me in check, but I take the free pawn. Knight to c6, I take. I cannot move my king back to defend this pawn, but I can maybe trap his bishop after I move out of the way. Or I can take a free bishop. Yeah, I take free bishops. And he doesn't even take the h-pawn. Yes, I'll play f4 to block it, seizing some more center space. This bishop has converted into a b6 pawn. Very impressive stuff. And I will bring my king forward. Check for a free pawn. And I'll move my king back this way or this way to defend the f4 pawn. If I move this way, check hits these 2 pieces. If I move this way, check skewers my king. But I'd like to leave these pawns intact since they're more advanced. So I'll play king g5. Okay, he doesn't even see the skewer. I don't think these bots can see skewers, honestly. That's what I'm starting to believe at this point. I'll play g4. This is a really good deflection tactic. Remove the guard, but it's still a fair trade in a sense, which he doesn't follow through on. So f5, I push. Yes, you can take this pawn. King g7, I push. He doesn't even accept the pawn. Let's see, f6 walks into check, so I'll push g5 first. Now f6. Now a free knight. Ooh. King to g8. Rook here. Check, check. King g6 isn't terrible. But king g6 is pretty uncomfortable because then there's no way to push my pawns. f7 is just controlled by the king and the rook. Okay, king g8, off we go. g6, push again. f7. Yes! All right, this has to be winning. I mean, I can't imagine a universe in which Martin overcomes this because queen, pin, and then g7 takes, whoops, these arrows are horrendous, takes, recapture with promotion, and then we're crushing. Push. Okay, he doesn't actually take, which is actually pretty annoying, honestly. I'll push the other pawn. There you go. Take with promotion, and now we just need to finish him off. We'll play queen to e7. Let's see, f7 check, king here, and I will waltz the king all the way down if that's what it takes. So f7, king h7. Yep. Yep. Now what? Free rook? Seems about right. And we have forced checkmate. Nice. For those of you who celebrated how often I get ladders mate, this one's for you. Another ladders mate with 2 queens this time. All right. It took us 10 pawns to beat Magnus. In my dreams. It took me 10 pawns to beat Martin this time. one more pawn than last time, but we did it the fair way. We started on the second rank and then worked our way up. If you guys did like this video, please consider liking and subscribing, and leave any other video ideas you guys have down below. I'll see you guys in the next one.